Alrighty. Greetings and salutations, my friends, listeners, or watchers. I'm Jackie Harris. I am the host of a podcast called Joysticks, where I talk to game creators about what the most joyful thing about making games is for them. So today I am actually joined by the incomparable Rachel Fabi. Rachel Fabi is an old friend of mine from high school. She is a bioethics professor. She also creates crossword puzzles that fund abortion. She has to date raised over $400,000 for different abortion funds all over. And she was also most notably on Jeopardy with Alex Trebek, like original Jeopardy. Rachel, thank you so much for being here. It's so lovely to have you.
Yeah, thanks so much for the invitation. I'm excited to talk crosswords with you.
Yeah. Okay. I do. You are seriously one of the smartest people I know. So it makes perfect sense to me that you make the games that thinking people do. The question I have for you first and ultimately is, what is the most joyful part about making these crossword puzzles for you?
So there's sort of two parts that are joyful, right? There's the actual creation part, where like the most exciting part of making any crossword for me is getting a really satisfying grid, creating like
Okay.
a really good, like just when the words come together in a way that is beautiful,
Okay.
and like aesthetically beautiful, but also like you got words in there that you like and are excited about, and that are expressive of who you are and what you care about. That's like a very joyful part. The other is like watching people enjoy the thing that you created, and that could be like, there are people who solve crossword puzzles on Twitch, and watching people solve your puzzle on Twitch is a very weird and wild
Wow.
experience.
That's
But also, like,
amazing.
there are so many like, there are just people who write about crossword puzzles. There's like crossword critique. So, getting to see how people have experienced what you made is also,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think, very fun, usually.
Okay, so there's a whole like crossword puzzle community
Oh, yes.
that is like deeply circulating all of your work. From what I understand, you've been doing this for like many years. Um,
Yeah, at this
what
point.
what made you make the jump from I really like doing crossword puzzles to I want to make crossword puzzles?
Yeah, well, so you said in the intro that I was on Jeopardy, and that is
That's correct.
true. I was on Jeopardy in 2019, and that had been like a lifelong goal of mine. Like, I don't know if you know this about me, Jackie. When we were in high school together, I was auditioning for Jeopardy, like on the reg. I wanted to be on the teen tournament. Um,
That is that that tracks heavily, but also I am obsessed with that. No, but
well,
that's
but I wasn't on the teen tournament, right? Like, I would try out and I wouldn't make it, and so I started solving crossword puzzles because I thought it would help me make the teen tournament. And I was wrong, but
but you still got there.
but I did get there when 10 years, 15 years later, I was on Jeopardy in 2019. And it was like the pinnacle of, years of trying
Yeah.
and wanting that. And then it was over, and you're not allowed to go back on Jeopardy unless they invite you back because you are a champion or whatever. So it's kind of like, what do I do next? Um,
Yeah, what does one do after meeting Alex Trebek on Jeopardy? That's correct. That's a
Yeah,
very
and in my
fair.
experience, what one does is make crossword puzzle. It felt like the next like nerdy thing to try to accomplish was to like successfully get a crossword puzzle published.
Yeah, that's
So
very
I,
fair.
I like went straight from Jeopardy into crossword puzzles. That was my launching point.
Okay. That's so interesting. Was it like so I don't know a whole lot about how one progresses in crossword puzzling. Is it like I'm gonna start small? Is it like because the grids are many sized, right? Is it like I start small and then get bigger, or is it like how does one also become the crossword puzzler of Autostraddle, which is another thing that you are?
Yeah. So when this is not everyone's sort of trajectory, but I think a very common trajectory in becoming a crossword constructor is getting plugged in with the community,
Hmm.
the people who already do it. It's an incredibly like generous, progressive, thoughtful group of people, and so they're always happy and excited to mentor people who want to learn the craft.
Mhm.
And so I got very lucky. I was paired up with like some incredible, generous crossword constructors who taught me how to do it. Um, and there are, resources that you need, like there's software that makes it
Sure.
possible. Most people are not creating with like graph paper and a pencil anymore. You need a word list, which, is something that has to be compiled over many years or given to you by a generous person who's already made one. Right. So I was mentored by people who really helped me get started. And then once I, once I had made a few with other people, I was like, I'm going to try this on my own. And then it took, a little bit longer to actually get those
Sure.
ones that I made on my own published. But yeah, that's sort of how it goes.
That's incredible. So this word list, is this a word list of, because I'm imagining like D&D DM, like you find a tome that like is a magical item. Like is this that?
It is kind of that. It's kind of that, except it's a digital file, right? It has to, it
Okay.
like plugs into your construction software.
Uh-huh.
And then as you build a grid, the software will go through your word list and suggest words that might fit a particular letter pattern.
Okay.
And so the more words that you have access to, or phrases or whatever that are in this list, the cleaner of a grid you can make. Clean meaning like you don't have crap like World War I battle sites that no one knows anymore, right?
Yeah, fair. Okay. So
Um,
more is more is really what we're
more
saying.
more is more within, like, I think I would put some caveats around that. Like there are certainly word lists that have a lot of things in them that I wouldn't want to put in a puzzle, right? Like I got one word list at one point that had like offhand references to sexual assault. And I'm like, I'm not putting that in my puzzle, right? Like maybe someone would have put that word in a puzzle in, 1970, but that doesn't need to, we don't still need to do that,
No, we're not
right?
even
And so,
thinking.
and actually, in the spirit of like generosity and sharing things, a good friend of mine, Brooke Husick, and another friend of mine, Enrique Henestrosa Anguiano, created a free word list called the Spread the Word List. If you just Google Spread the Word List, it is like cleaned out of all of that junk that you don't want. And it is constantly being updated so that as like new terms come into the vernacular, they're adding it to this free resource for people who want to get started. So,
Amazing. We love open
yeah,
sourcing joy. Uh,
absolutely.
that's fantastic. Okay, so incredible, incredible trajectory here. Um, what? So my next question for you is when did become crossword puzzles for abortion? Like when did that become the thing?
Yeah. So there's been kind of a history, like predating these puzzles fund abortion, which is my fundraiser, of people using crossword puzzles to raise money for causes. Like I didn't invent that method. There were people who, like, 15 years ago used it to raise money for the Red Cross, and then after the 2016 election, there were people who used, like, donated a few crossword puzzles in exchange for donations to just generally progressive charities as kind of a reaction to the 2016 election. A friend of mine, Nate Carden, created a couple of crossword fundraisers called Queer Crosswords, where in exchange for donations to queer charities, we would send you these like just very gay puzzles, which was fantastic. I contributed a puzzle to Queer Crosswords too, and it was a really fun experience. But these puzzles fund abortion happened because I was friends with the person who at the time was the president of the Baltimore Abortion Fund. And she asked me, like, hey, I know you make crosswords. Do you think you could make one for us and we could use it to raise money? And I was like, yeah, sure. Here's a like fundathon, like bowling themed puzzle because they were doing bowling as their fundraising at the time. And it made like $700 or something. Like people donated, but like it was not a big thing. But then the next year, she asked me if I would do it again. And I was like, I think, having seen the success that Queer Crosswords had and these other charity packs, I was like, I think I could do that. I think I could pull together a bunch of my very talented friends and
Yeah.
like make a whole thing of this. And so we gave it a shot. I that first year I edited by myself, which was like huge undertaking, but my friends very generously donated puzzles. And then through the National Network of Abortion Funds annual fundathon fundraiser, anyone who donated through our fundraising page, we would send the puzzles to. And that sort of became our model. And I, like, the team grew. I brought in some more editors because I'm an okay editor, but there are some very talented people out there who
Sure.
were very helpful. And it just, it kind of took off. And at a certain point, it was like, well, like after the Dobbs decision leaked, people donated $70,000 for crossword puzzles. And it was like, if you're making that kind of money, you can't really stop. I can't like
Yeah.
not do this anymore. So I'm going to just keep making abortion fundraiser puzzles until abortion is legal and safe for everyone. Thank you.
Yeah. No, that's really incredible. Also, raising $700 for something as a first go is really actually very impressive. Um,
Thanks.
but yeah, it really feels like that's like when you can put something that you really enjoy in the hands of someone who's like, oh, this would be a great exchange, and it ends up just sort of being like a mutually beneficial situation, and then you're like, oh, people really like mutually beneficial situations that end up being really good for everyone. Um, that's that's like absolutely next level. Um, wow. Uh, the so these fundraisers that you do for they happen annually or
Yeah, they happen annually. So the National Network of Abortion Funds has a 3-month period every year that they call their fundathon, where all
okay.
of these different abortion funds, which are organizations that raise money to help people afford abortion care who can't afford it on their own, either because of like travel costs, like say you live in a state where abortion is now illegal and you have to travel out of state, or just because like your health insurance doesn't cover it and you have to pay out of pocket and you just can't afford that. Abortion funds help people sort of close those gaps. And so between March and May every year, the National Network of Abortion Funds has their fundraiser. So we actually our work starts in November to start like getting these puzzles put together. So I'm kind of on this like 6-month cycle where we start in November getting the puzzles, and then Fundathon runs through the end of May. And right now we are in July. I am in my off season, but we'll start ramping up pretty soon to start producing another pack.
Nice. Okay, so this sounds like its own like whole like ecosystem. Um, and I guess I want to ask about um, how how does being in sort of like a very supportive, structured community, I guess, make it easier, and maybe even how does it make it harder to like do something like this, because it sounds like a large undertaking, but it sounds like you have a lot of support, and I know that that comes with like sometimes it's not about the game. Do you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
sometimes the game is about organization and logistics and making sure things go the way that they're supposed to go so that everyone can have a good time. Um, DM stuff. Um, do you find that having a really close knit community makes that easier?
For sure. Yeah. I mean, on the most recent abortion pack, we had 50 people involved between people who made puzzles, people who tested them, people who helped support our social media. So yeah, it is very helpful to have a ton of people who care about the cause and have the skills to execute, right? Like we invite people to contribute to the pack who we know can deliver a puzzle that we're not going to have to edit too heavily. Um, and who like so the puzzles in at least in these puzzles fund abortion are all roughly reproductive justice themed.
Okay.
We'll take a few detours into like other social justice causes, but for the most part we're talking about the right to have children, the right not to have children, and the right to parent children, and that is the
Mhm.
reproductive justice framework and the basis of our puzzles. But like we want them to be fun, right? They're not going to be preachy puzzles. So these are all like puns on
Mm.
different like
Reproductive
reproductive
funds.
health
Got it.
care. Yeah, exactly. I'll say like as an example, a few years ago, I made a puzzle with my friend Rebecca Goldstein that was kind of like the centerpiece of that pack, which was an enormous grid. It was like 25 by 25 squares, and a normal crossword is 15 by 15. So it was very big. And in the middle of it, using the black squares, we drew a giant uterus. And the title of the puzzle was Mass Hysteria. Like, it was just sort of like
That's metal.
using puzzles to do cool shit. I don't know if I can say
Yeah,
shit on
hell
your
yeah.
podcast.
No, that's fully allowed. Fuck yeah, it is. The that's that's so cool. So, okay, I have a couple questions now.
Sure.
The how does one play test a crossword puzzle? Is it like and like is there like an editing cycle there that's like is it like we don't know what this means or this could be misconstrued or like what is how does that go?
Yeah, so there's like at this point we've worked out our process and it's many steps. So we start with asking the constructors to pitch us a theme, or if they're making a themeless puzzle, to pitch us a few what we call seed entries, just like the entries that are the ones they're going to build the puzzle around, the things that they want people to like walk away remembering.
Okay.
And so they'll send to our team of editors, like, here's the theme I'd like, here's the theme set. So these are the entries that I would like to include in the puns that are part of this theme. And we'll workshop with them. Either we'll be like, great, awesome, reproductive justice wordplay, go for it. Or we'll workshop with them to sort of, narrow it down. Or if there's something that, could be misconstrued or could be like taken the wrong way, we try to, using our own sensibilities, manage that and work with the constructor to sort of nail down the set. They build the grid and we'll approve the grid. So we'll look at every word that's in there and say, you know what, like this reference to this person, we don't really want to include that person in the grid for these reasons. And can you rework that corner? And so there's sort of a back and forth on that. Fortunately, we don't have to do that much of it because the people we work with are so talented and so like smart about that kind of thing and very thoughtful that we don't come up against that a lot. But we'll give that feedback to them as editors. They will write the clues, we'll edit the clues. So if like, if you have too many that are too long and it's spilling off the page, we're going to cut that down. Or if, maybe we want to change the tone a little bit, the editors can make those choices. And then we send it to a group of people who have volunteered to test solve. So people who maybe aren't constructors of crosswords, but who are avid solvers,
Mhm.
and who have like an eye for the things that we care about in this, again, being sensitive to
Sure.
social justice issues in the test solving. And so they'll give us feedback and say, hey, this clue didn't really work for me. Or like, hey, were you aware of the allegation against this football star who was included in the puzzle? And then we'll be like, oh, no, we weren't. Well, we should change that. Right. And so it's sort of an iterative process. And that way we'll give the feedback back to the constructors. So it's a lengthy process going from idea to like finished puzzle for sure.
Okay. And that's so interesting because I had never really considered that. Yeah, I had no idea how a crossword puzzle got made. I just assumed that they kind of appear. In a very capitalist, I pick one up off the shelf very naturally kind of way orange juice grows on trees. But okay, so well, that's really excellent. Is maybe slightly tangential, but I kind of want to go back to um like if when you were talking about the that key puzzle that you made with your friend that had the uterus in it.
Yeah.
um what did making that puzzle feel like? Because it sounds so badass. Like what is like a the feeling of like a really good puzzle? Like does it come with like certain things inside of it?
Yeah, it's so satisfying. Like when you, like I was saying, I think at the beginning, like when you get a grid that includes things that you care about and you're able to share those things with whoever's solving, like you can put a lot of voice into crossword puzzles. A lot of that voice, like say you make a puzzle for the New York Times, is going to get edited out because they want the voice of that puzzle to be Will Schwartz's voice, right? But we try to emphasize constructor voice as much as we can, and give people the chance to like speak through their art. I mean, it is art. And so like with that uterus puzzle, like Rebecca and I were so stoked when we nailed that grid, because crosswords have rules about how they come together. They have to be symmetrical, or they don't have. That is changing, but in general, crossword puzzles are symmetrical. They have, shouldn't have two-letter words in them unless there's a really good reason. It should be three or longer, that kind of thing. And so when we built this puzzle, we down the center of the uterus and like out the vagina of this
Okay.
uterus, we put the word abortion fund, so that it was, because it was like, what we're raising money for basically. And
Hmm.
then it just happened. We built it in such a way that like the like vaginal canal had the letters FUN. So it like just said fun coming out of this vagina. I mean, it was
Nice.
just, we were so proud of ourselves.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, I know. Like, it sounds like, I don't know, like like you said, it is an art form, and I feel so fundamentally that art is just as much something to enjoy the end of, like, but the process of it is just that much more enjoyable. And it sounds like the making of the puzzle, the like molding of the shapes and the actually really goes into what makes it joyful.
Yeah, for sure.
Um, that is so cool. Yeah, fun comes out of vaginas.
That's my experience.
That. Hey, um, wow. Uh, I I love that. Are you has the way that you have like wanted to create content for these puzzles changed? Is it similar to when you started four ish years ago?
um,
For like,
no, I think when I started, I was really just interested in making a puzzle, any puzzle. Like I just wanted to show that I could do it, right? And now that I know that and have demonstrated that I can do it,
definitely.
I'm a little bit more picky, about what kind of puzzle I want to make. Like the abortion puzzles are one thing, but I sell puzzles to other outlets. And like, if it doesn't excite me, if it's just kind of a boring theme that we've seen a million times, I'm probably not going to make that puzzle, which means I'm making fewer puzzles these days because those like really brilliant ideas don't come all that often. Um, but or alternatively, like it might be a really simple puzzle, but that again, it like speaks to things I care about. So like you'll find this maybe amusing. I've had 7 crossword puzzles that are D&D themed in like major outlets
Incredible.
over the last couple years, and I did a whole bunch of them for the USA Today. And the woman who writes, there's like a blog, her name is Sally, she writes the USA Today's like crossword coverage. She noticed. She like followed enough of my puzzles to be like, this is Rachel's 5th D&D puzzle. And they're not all like obviously D&D, it's like a little subtle. And so it was really gratifying also to be like, I put this thing I care about in the puzzle and someone noticed.
Yes, that does deeply interest me. Um, I am deeply interested in that. So do you have themes that you're like always sort of like waiting for someone to be like make a puzzle about X? Like, are so like D&D is obviously like one of them where if you had an opportunity, but are there others lately?
Yeah, I had for a very long time, as you mentioned, I'm a bioethicist, and I was like, how do I make a crossword puzzle with bioethics in it? I could not figure it out. And I recently was invited to contribute a puzzle to an outlet that is like science and news, like it's a sciencey publication, and they have started running a crossword recently. And I was like, okay, I can do this. I can figure out a way to make this puzzle about ethics and science. And I finally cracked what I want the theme to be, and I'm just like, first of all, relieved that I can stop thinking about this because it felt like a real failure that I hadn't been able to come up with a bioethics theme. But I'm also really happy with the puzzle that it turned out to be. It's going to come out this summer. I'm not sure um, when exactly, but I can send it to you when it comes out.
I would love that. I would love that. That is also a very Rachel coded experience of like, if I can't figure out how to do this, I don't know who I am. um, but that's amazing. Being able to being able so okay. So I guess I'll ask the sorry, all of the questions live right up here. I don't You can't see them. Um the way that you give people games is obviously a game, but it feels like making the game is also a game. Do you feel like
100%.
it is a game?
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the thing that I really love about doing crossword puzzles, like as a hobby, is that I love the experience of creating them. That is the hobby, but I can also like monetize that hobby, right? Like I can sell that
Sure.
or donate that puzzle and it can be experienced by other people too, right? So I would just make puzzles to make puzzles. Fortunately, I can also make puzzles that other people then solve, right? So both sides of that are really satisfying, because it is like creating the puzzle is a puzzle for sure.
Yeah, it sounds like oh, what puzzle will I solve that is the puzzle that makes the puzzle kind of thing. Um
I've never thought about it this way, but I love that. I'm gonna think more on that.
I don't mean to like meta puzzle you, but like it seems like there is like there is a puzzle inside of every puzzle that like it has the like jouissance, the like aha, like I have done it
Totally.
moment that seems like exactly like playing a game. And like playing a game doesn't mean that you necessarily need to win. You just need to have fun doing it for it to be a game, kind of.
Totally.
But yeah, no, that's excellent.
I will say
I
that the thing about making a puzzle that is most puzzle-like for me is creating the grid. I don't care as much about writing clues. Like I know how to do it. I can write good clues. But the grid is the satisfying puzzle part for me. And so my friend Claire and I actually have a little like crossword blog where we sometimes post puzzles that we make like that we don't intend to sell called Just Gridding because we just want to make the grid. And so actually during like peak COVID, we were doing this thing where we would make grids, just the grids, and not write the clues. And then we would crowdsource the clues on Twitch. So we would have people like look at the grid and help us write clues for it. And then we would talk through the clues that people submitted, both like, a discussion about what makes this clue good, what makes it doesn't, and also sort of to teach people who are just getting into crosswords, like, here's what you should be thinking about when you're writing clues. And so that was a very kind of meta experience of like, we did our puzzle, we made the grid, and now we're kind of using it as an educational moment and also outsourcing the part we don't want to do.
actually like yeah, that's just like such a level of I don't want to say democratizing because I feel like that gets sort of like bastardized lately, but like being able to give people access to a thing that's like, hey, we do this and it's fun and you can join in and like also let's stream it is just so epic somehow. Just being able to be like, and I feel like that's so excellent because if you had been like Jackie, I want to solve a crossword puzzle on Twitch, I would have been like, what? I feel like crossword puzzles aren't a thing I would think is streaming, but I will absolutely be looking at people solving crossword puzzles now. Um,
Yeah. I in a few years ago, so I make American style crosswords for the most part, but there's another kind of crossword that is a British style. It's called a cryptic.
oh yeah,
I'm
okay.
not going to get into the details of how they work, but they are mind breaking, and I didn't know how to solve them. And so I got two of my friends who are very good at solving cryptics to stream them with me, and they taught me like live on the internet how to solve these puzzles. And I learned, and like people who were watching either already knew and wanted to like laugh at me struggling, or were learning along with me. And either way, like that's a fun shared experience. Um, so yeah, it's not just like let me show you how fast I can solve. You can also use it as a like teaching and demonstrating that like it's okay not to know how to do this, and we're gonna figure it out together. Thank
Gives me hope, actually. Thank you so much for telling that story. But yeah, my um I guess one of my um last questions for you is, where do you want this to go? Like, where do you want, like, maybe crossword puzzles to go in your life? And also, where do you want puzzles that fund abortion to go? Like, what's your ultimate, like, because, like, for some people it's like, I just want to do this for as long as I can, and for others it's like, I want this to turn into something else. What are your thoughts, plans, dreams, hopes, goals?
you. Yeah, I mean, so in terms of the abortion puzzles, I'm just going to keep doing what we're doing. I don't know that it's scalable any more than it already has scaled.
Sure.
I think my aspirations for crosswords more broadly are like I have achieved the things in crosswords that are important to me. Like I do the abortion puzzles, I've published in the New York Times, I edit for Autostraddle, those are all very cool things. But I want this community to continue to grow. I think crosswords are getting more diverse, but in general, they're pretty white. And I want there to be more diversity in this community. You know, I want people to reach out for mentorship. I want to offer that mentorship so that we can bring more voices into crosswords. Because I think, for a long time, the only crossword that people solved was the New York Times. And so the only voice that was heard was Will Shortz's voice.
Sure.
And Will Shortz is a very nice man, but he's one guy. And I don't think, he should be the arbiter of what is worthy of inclusion in a crossword puzzle. And so as we grow, like, the population of solvers, and as we diversify who's solving puzzles, we should be also diversifying who's creating them so that people see themselves in the things they care about reflected back in the puzzles they solve. So that's not a thing that I can do by myself. It is something that as a community we are definitely working towards, as a community of crossword constructors, but I think we have a ways to go on that front.
Yeah, very valid. Um, yeah, I would agree with you. I feel like I knew Will Shortz. I feel like I didn't know a whole lot of other people who weren't you, who were making crossword puzzles. Um, but yeah, it sounds like there's a lot of space for folks. Um, this is maybe a weird question, but I'm imagining crossword puzzle zines. Is that a thing that
That is a
exists?
thing. It's not a huge thing, but a friend of mine, Kelsey Dixon, made a zine this year that was incredible. It was just like personal puzzles. It was very like voicey and about her life and about Chicago, where she lives, but it was like a paper zine that she mailed to people.
Amazing.
There's another crossword constructor, her name is Kate Chin Park, who has organized the creation of crossword puzzles for people who are incarcerated. So there's like a newsletter that gets circulated through a lot of like Bureau of prisons in the US. And so she has been working with them to include a crossword puzzle in that newsletter that goes out. And that's it's not exactly a zine, but it's sort of a way of like
That's incredible.
circulating puzzles to people who don't have internet access, right? It's like a paper copy.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I feel like the way that a lot of people play play crossword puzzles, solve crossword puzzles, etc., interact with crossword puzzles is New York Times or USA Today, or the little timed ones, that the mini crossword
Yeah.
or what have you. Um, but yeah, that's crazy cool. Crossword puzzle literacy forever. Um,
Yeah.
wow, that's awesome. Do you do you think that the I guess, do you think that the way that we have sort of digitized crosswords has made them more accessible
Yeah,
to
I
more
think so.
folks? And do you think that that's, like, do you think it's better that we have just given people broader access to like the larger singular voices? Do you think that that has some sort of like ability to get people into it more? Like, do you still think that that's the case?
Yeah, totally. I mean, I think for a lot of people, like solving the mini, which is edited by pretty much the same person at the Times every day, is like a gateway into. Then you solve the big puzzle, and then you start recognizing constructors' names, and you're like, you start to learn, hey, there are actually other puzzles out there. So I think the mini, which is like freely available, is a perfect example of how we get this medium in front of more people, this game in front of more people, and then they can learn about other places they can go. And there are still paywalls on a lot, like the New York Times has a paywall. I edit for Autostraddle. Our bigger puzzles are paywalled because queer media needs money,
Sure.
is what it comes down to.
Pay for your
But
media,
I have
everyone.
been like very insistent that the Autostraddle minis remain free and paywalled because I think that's the only way that people are going to get into it is if they can try it on the small scale and see how it feels. And then I think it's really important for people to see themselves reflected in the puzzles. And at Autostraddle, the puzzles are hella gay. And I think if you are a queer person who has always thought that crossword puzzles were golf and baseball and World War One battle sites, and then you see a clue about Chapel Roan, it's like a big moment um, to realize that it's not that you were bad at crosswords, it's that they weren't made for you, and we can change that.
It sounds like it's so funny that you say like baseball and golf and like World War I and like because yeah, like my grandfather did crossword puzzles and that's literally what they were about. All of the 90s was like just like over and over like the same shortstop. You know what I mean? Um, is do you find that in a way crossword puzzles sort of shape the zeitgeist? Like, is
Yeah,
that
that's it's interesting. Do they shape it, or are they shaped by it, or is it a mutually reinforcing thing? My friend Natan Last, who is a crossword constructor for the New Yorker, has a book coming out called Across the Universe, where I think he tries to answer that question.
okay?
I have not read it yet. I'm looking forward to it. It comes out this fall. Um, but yeah, I mean, I think, for instance, like the New York Times forever has had what they call the breakfast test, which is Will Shortz's rule where if you're solving this puzzle over breakfast and you come across an entry that makes you feel like it has ruined your breakfast, then we shouldn't include it. And so that might, historically have ruled out things like the word poop. Like you're not going to put that in a crossword puzzle because you don't want to necessarily see that while you're solving. But it was also used to gatekeep other stuff. And so recently, like a few years ago, this is one of my favorite examples. A friend of mine, Ryan McCarty, debuted the entry gay porn in the New York Times. Like it had never obviously appeared before. And for the first time, Will Shortz's breakfast test allowed gay porn into the crossword puzzle. And so I think, we have been slowly, like through queer crosswords and through this, like these efforts to diversify who makes and who solves crossword puzzles, we have shifted the window on what is, considered worthy of inclusion in the puzzle. And I think in some sense that's a product of like changes in society, right? The zeitgeist shaping the puzzle, but I do think it works both ways. I think, now that gay porn has been in the New York Times crossword, if your grandpa complains when you say the word gay porn in front of him, you can be like, well, grandpa was in the New York Times crossword. Like,
Yes, wield the sword of the New York Times. Yeah, but absolutely though. Like I think that having pushing like what would have been considered subcultural themes into things like the New York Times crossword gives them a sense of legitimacy that they otherwise would not have had. And also just like a very literal pen on paper, this is what they meant. They really did mean gay porn.
yeah.
Unmistakably. There is, a certain right and wrongness of crossword puzzles in a way that other games don't necessarily sort of have. We really meant it. We mean gay porn.
Yeah,
um,
totally. That was the answer.
Sorry, Grandpa. No, that's excellent. I think that that's, as we come sort of, as we lumber strangely into the new worlds that we learn about every day, I so strongly believe that being able to to tell people, no, like, this is my right answer is going to be so, so important. So, like, crossword puzzles are going to be so important for being able to be like, hey guys, no, like, that is the right answer. Um, in a world
I
where
hope so.
certain words are taken away or deemed you're not able to say them or whatever
Yeah.
litany and or barrage of things we may come up against.
Yeah, it's a cultural artifact and it is also a vehicle of culture.
Yeah, for sure. It is both the piggy and the piggyback, if you will.
I love it.
um yeah, so okay. Do you I guess has your crossword experience been an experience that you would say like unequivocally like I would like to invite other people into this experience?
Yeah. Yeah. And okay, I guess the one equivocation is that the people that I want to invite into constructing are people who enjoy solving. I have had the experience of mentoring people who are just like, I want to have a crossword puzzle in the New York Times, but never put in the time to really learn the language of crosswords by
Mm-hmm.
solving. And so I guess that's a little bit gatekeepy, but I think that you should understand the medium before you attempt to create it. And so I want to invite everyone into solving. And once you're here, once you're at the party solving, then I want to be like, yes, let's all go to the next step together of constructing.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I think that is kind of the other thing about games that makes them a little different from art, right? Is like you can get this wrong. Like right? I normally say like the only way you can fail at D&D is by thinking that you can do it by yourself. Um which you will fail. I'm God, you will fail. No, but literally like one of the to me one of the big differences between games and art is being able to be like no, that the rules have been broken here. You did it wrong. And it
and,
sounds
and
like
and and crosswords do have rules, and the rules can be broken, but they should be broken for good reasons. And I think, you know, breaking the rules because you're being experimental and edgy and at like trying to push the envelope on what a crossword can be, that's awesome. Breaking the rules because you didn't know what the rules are,
yeah,
that's less awesome.
it doesn't make for a very fun game usually.
Yeah, totally.
Um, depending on pretty much 99% of the time, if you don't know the rules, you probably shouldn't break them. Um, are we dating ourselves as millennials with this conversation? I'm not
100%.
entirely sure. Cool. Cool, 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 right on. We talked about monetizing hobbies. We talked about how there should be rules. We have squarely identified ourselves as millennials in this conversation. Um,
I have no
well,
regrets.
uh, uh, same. No regrets at all. Well, I wanted to say thank you so very much, Rachel, for joining me today and for being my very first guest. I have known you for 20 plus years, so I cannot believe I've said that, but I thank you so, so very much for your time. And if anyone would like to check out any of the puzzles that we have talked about in this episode, by all means, please go to www.abortionpuzzles.com, which is where you can get some of these puzzles that we have been talking about. So thank you so very much, Rachel, and best of luck and joy in making your crossword puzzles. Until next time, folks, I'm Jackie Harris, and I hope the joy sticks. Thanks.